a bottle of white, a bottle of red, perhaps a bottle of rosé instead. They say in vino veritas. To that I say, let's raise a glass.
Welcome back to Got Knowledge. I am preempting our regularly scheduled series, How to Taste, to bring you an important message on formal tastings. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is DeniZe, your virtual partner in wine. So far, we've had 2 sessions on tasting wine. Back in May, we had one on the ABCs of tasting, and more recently another on what to expect at a formal tasting for both guest and host. We've also covered the points of etiquette at a formal tasting, the proverbial do's and don'ts. However, one point has never been discussed. It's a point so important, yet if overlooked, could mean all the difference between having an enjoyable tasting experience or a miserable one. And it's because I was foolish enough to believe I could get by at a tasting on theory alone that I am here passing on to you the lesson I learned. But first, let's have a look at that theory once again. We know that at a well-planned tasting, we can expect to find open bottles of wine set out on long tables, covered with white tablecloths. On those tables, you'll find pitchers of water for rinsing your glass and cleansing your palate as you move from wine to wine. And as we've learned in great expectorations, the noble art of spitting, there'll be spittoons conveniently placed on those tables. The organizer of that tasting will also see that there's something for you to nibble on, to blot your tongue and keep your appetite in check. Something bland, like plain, crusty bread. Theory also explained why both you and the host need to come to the tasting clean, free of any distracting scents that might turn the noses of the other tasters up in disapproval. Theory also provided us with a tasting guideline, the ABCs of tasting. A, for assessing the wine's appearance. B, for identifying the bouquet or nose. And C, for judging the concentration and weight of the wine. However, there is that one important point, so ridiculously obvious that it is unfortunately too obvious to mention. What is it? Shoes. If it's a sit-down tasting, you can afford to wear fancy footwear. However, if it's a stand-up affair, what you wear begins to play a role in the quality of your tasting experience. Because there is a direct correlation between how you feel and how you taste. If you're uncomfortable, you'll be concentrating more on what's making you miserable and less on what's in your glass. If the stand-up tasting is at someone's home, perhaps you'll be lucky, and your feet will be in constant contact with carpeting. And if your feet can no longer bear the weight of that vino nobile you're holding, there's a good chance you'll find a comfortable chair to allow you to continue enjoying your prugnolo off your feet. But attend a formal tasting on a grand scale. There's just no way of knowing whether the floors you'll be standing on for hours will be carpeted or concrete. And the chances of there being somewhere to sit, well, let's just say, if there are, be prepared to take a number. So my public tasting message to you is, bring comfortable shoes. Also, don't weigh yourself down with unnecessary baggage, like me. If you can't check your things, you're toast. Instead of comfortably moving from table to table, I was careening my way through the crowd of tasters like the proverbial bull in a shin-on shop, with 2 bags slung over my shoulders, wine catalogs the size of telephone directories under both arms, a glass in one hand and a pencil in the other. Not a pretty sight. It was one of those impossible situations where I would have given anything for an extra pair of hands and a marsupial pouch. So unless you're 100% sure of the tasting environment, dress for comfort. This public tasting service announcement was brought to you by yours truly, DeniZe, your virtual partner in wine. Tune in next week for our regularly scheduled program, Tasting Blind. Thank you for joining me, and remember, got knowledge? Pass it on. A bottle of red, a bottle of white, it all depends upon your appetite. I'm here next week, so do drop by. Arrivederci, ciao, goodbye.